good afternoon. My name is Claudia and I'm with IDX. Today is day one of Manifest Expo 2025. Here I have Rich and Jordan. How are you guys?
Great. Doing great, thank you.
Excellent, excellent. Well, thank you so much for joining me. So, Rich, I'm going to open it up with you. I know that we're, kind of working with segues, and you're mostly just going to take over the interview here. But Rich, just tell me about yourself, a little bit about yourself, your position, your background. Take it away.
Yeah, great. Thank you guys for having me. It's a pleasure to be helping IDX go through and talk with some of my friends here at Manifest. My background is sales and marketing. Initially, I was in retail sales at Verizon for more than half my career. Moved into a director position over operations and marketing, and I started Verizon's first retail trade-in program, where we were buying devices back to harness that residual value and use to apply the value to the next customer purchase, which helped sell more things and helped introduce a new revenue stream, increase customer satisfaction, because people felt good that they were getting value when they came in. And shortly after doing that, I moved into reverse logistics. I ran Verizon's return processing center, pushing 17 million devices through. Got to go through and grow the revenue of the sale of products that people no longer wanted from $1 billion to $1.6 billion in 2 years by partnering with Jordan. We've danced around each other for a few positions in my life, but he is the one who taught me a lot about what customers expect when they buy something used in a good, better, best environment, which is a lot more complex when you scale it across multiple platforms that all have their own different rules. So I ran Cisco's Global Reverse. I spent 3 years in the advisory board of the RLA. I wrote a book on reverse logistics. So, and I've started calling it circular logistics now because it really resonates more with people and the mission of what's right for the environment and what's smart business by keeping things in production. But few companies and few people within companies understand how. And that's where Jordan comes into play, because he has built a phenomenal company that helps go through and solve some of the complexities of selling through e-commerce.
Yeah. So, like Rich said, we've been kind of working together through multiple iterations of marketplace enablement. I'm Jordan Sielaff. I'm a part of a company called Geared, and we build multi-channel sales enablement platform that supports brands and removes the barrier to entry for brands who want to scale across multi-channel marketplaces like Amazon, eBay, Walmart. There is a growing trend where more and more sales are going direct to the brand themselves. And there's a lot of system gaps, operational gaps, and process gaps that are making it very difficult to scale your business within these spaces. And so Geared really went after that gap specifically. And so we are continuing to iterate on the data that's required to drive decisions in that space, but also the processes that need to be automated. And so we emphasize heavily on hands-off-the-wheel solutions, leveraging data insights to drive action.
Great. Some companies are really good when they have a product listing it on one specific platform. And they build good relationships, but you're bringing a different solution to the table where you help people scale across multiple platforms, like lines in the water when you're fishing. Can you help me understand what is the benefit of going multiple distribution points instead of just focusing on one and getting real good at it? Amazon, for instance.
It's, obviously Amazon helped pave the road for marketplaces that exist today. But as a brand, you really want to be de-risked in your sales strategy, and you really want to be able to master all the major marketplaces. Every year there's multiple new marketplaces that are being activated by the retailer in an attempt to solve the distribution gaps that exist between the manufacturer of goods and the delivery to the end consumer. And this drives value ultimately to the customer themselves, because that means you can get product cheaper to the customer, better prices. And as we look ahead with tariffs and other areas that are going to drive up costs, brands, retailers are looking for ways to reduce cost in that exchange. And that's if you're looking at scaling within the space, you really do have to have a multi-channel strategy because you have to de-risk it. You have to find the best economics that drive value to your customers, and then ultimately eliminate any layers that are preventing or driving up costs in the process.
Great. One of the things that I know I experienced managing multiple platforms is pricing.
Yeah.
Because the price of a product is not the same on every different site. So sometimes it's smart to turn sites on and turn them off.
Yeah.
Can you help our listeners understand a little bit about how pricing strategy takes place over multiple platforms and what types of complexities are there?
The beauty of digital commerce is it's all real time. It's happening right now. And pricing is volatile. It's constantly iterating, constantly changing. Your competitor is constantly changing their price. If you're a seller of a clothing t-shirt line and you have another competitor sell something similar, they may run a deal at any given moment within the digital environment. In retail, you used to have planning sessions around pricing. You'd run an event, then you'd run a promo. Online, you're really looking and pulse checking the market every 10 minutes. And so if you're running multi-channel, you have to factor in pricing across all your competition, your own pricing volatility that's driving sell-through velocity. So if you need to move 50,000 units, you need to price it at the right cadence that allows that traction to transact. And there's lots of data all in between there that are driving how you should price within that space. Should I price up during peak demand periods, price down during low demand periods? As a brand, you're now within the marketplace ecosystem. You're forced to come up with the strategies and have the systems to make those decisions quickly. And that's really why what we're building at Geared is attempting to solve that specific pain point.
As you mentioned, ecosystems across different multiple marketplaces, there's a whole bunch of different factors that I think people really don't understand. And your company specializes in not just new, but used, where a used product can have a good, better, best type of grading system, but good, better, best isn't called the same things on the different sites. Return reasons are different. There's a perception that customers that shop on one site have different feelings about conditions than another site. How does Geared help go through and shape success?
Yeah, it's actually aligning with great partners. It's a big reason why we're at Manifest now is to meet with other logistics partners and build relationships with great logistics partners to come up with solutions that drive and close the loop on returns, allowing brands to be able to recapture the value in the return space. So if a product goes out and it comes back, you really want to be able to create solutions and work with great partners to be able to come up with strategies and systems that drive down the cost, speed up the rotation to really get product back out in the market. And so we're here meeting with lots of logistics partners that solve different pain points in the logistics space and drive better value to the end consumer, because ultimately you're trying to drive down cost.
Right, absolutely.
So if you have a company that comes to you that has a new idea, a new product, a coffee maker, or some sort of new technology, what advice would you give to someone that has a good idea that's trying to just navigate the complexities of matching supply and demand through e-commerce marketplaces?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing is we are in an environment where the barrier to entry to bring new products to market is at the lowest it's been in a really long time. And most of that's been built around marketplace enablement, eliminating the barrier. Any brand can come to market, put their product out there, and drive exposure. What they need to plan for is to enable that. There's so many more layers of complexity now than there were prior. You have to understand your logistics game plan. What is your strategy associated with your forward, your reverse? You almost have to become an expert across so many different verticals. And this is why finding those right partners early on, coming up with ways to be able to track your product across multiple points of the life cycle, and then drive solutions that enable you to be able to scale across these marketplaces. Marketplaces, retail, physical, brick and mortar, and online is, I would say, consistently getting more and more complex.
Great.
Yeah.
Similar thing with my old worlds. I worked at Cisco, I worked at Verizon, I worked at some big brands, I worked at some small enterprise companies. But as people in leadership at these brands and distributors of things are trying to go through and optimize and change some of their existing rules that existed for online or for shopping in stores, the online shopping behavior is much more different, and the omni-channel shopping behavior is so much different. So speak for a minute to those that have corporate positions. What are some things that they need to be aware of that you think they aren't about building an online strategy?
Yeah, I mean, within the corporate environment, it's very much like this similar framework as being a startup. You're being tasked to solve the full life cycle equation when you bring a product to market. Within the direct sales channels like Amazon and eBay, you really do have to solve for all points of the life cycle when you bring your product to market. And so within that space, it's finding the right partners to be able to align with. Build your strategy as early as possible and start cycling and beta testing those environments because you're backed by a very large company with large sources of supply, but you still need to be able to put in commitments. And the commitments drive a lot of cost impacts. So that means you really have to factor your planning and make sure you modeled it correctly so that when you go to market, you don't sell out of the item that you're bringing to market. And you're delivering adjustments based on the demand cadence in the market because the market's constantly changing and you have to be able to adjust to those dynamics. So I would say if in their environment, they really have to look at it as a business at the end of the day. And then you still have to map the full structure to ensure that they're delivering the right amount of supply at the right time and understand the unit economics from point A to point Z. I mean, yeah.
So being here at Manifest with a lot of supply chain and logistics companies, I'm going to lean into my love language, my space, reverse and circular logistics. You've had an active role in organizations like the Reverse Logistics Association. And when you mentioned hidden costs, talk to me a little bit about why you have a passion around returns and how they can kind of eat into some of the profits in a hidden way.
Yeah, I think when brands go to market and they do go direct to marketplace, one of the biggest problems that they have to factor is returns. Retail currently manages returns on an aggregate scale where you have a mix of 1,000 SKUs that are all coming back to one central hub. When a brand brings a product to market direct, they're looking at their individual SKU and have to look at it as almost a siloed impact of now I have to figure out where this unit's going to go, build out the systems to be able to make sure it's getting mapped to the right partner within their reverse logistics ecosystem. And many times the solutions that they need to resell it aren't actually in place in their existing logistics format. And so really what they need to align on is working and finding those right partners to unify the solution who are doing it on an aggregate scale. So it's almost like a reverse aggregation. You're an independent seller as a brand, and the units have to go back to an aggregated partner who can create the unit economics for a returns structure. And there are some really great companies that are solving some very specific pain points in that space. And I know you're connected to many next iteration solves for that space. So I'm very excited for what you're building.
Awesome. One quick question that I'm sure is at the tip of everyone's tongue, and they're wanting to know, what does geared mean?
Oh yeah, geared is actually a unit of measure. They used to use it as a form of measuring acres, and so we used it. It was a very simple word for us to be able to pick for a .com, but it also aligns with our core, which is measuring your business. So we look at everything from, what does it cost to pick, pack, ship it, and fulfill it, to what are the costs on the marketplace, and we reconcile all that data so that a brand, when they make a price change and say, hey, I'm going to drop my price by $2, what is the long-term impact to the profitability? We're looking across the full cost structure.
I worked for a great sales leader once that told me what gets measured gets done.
Yeah, that's right.
And going through and being able to go through and just access all these different marketplaces and aggregate information and make sense of it. How does Geared go through and structure the information? Because it seems complex going through and trying to API in multiple different places and give something consumable. back to the customers you support.
Exactly. And so we created a unified data structure where we ingest data from our vendors to the marketplaces. And you're right, every system has their own information structure. And so we have to take it and unify that to a unified schema. And then once that data is clean, then we can start modeling it and drive decision logic from that central hub. So yeah, it is a complex system, and we have to continue to iterate and enhance it over time. So, yeah, it doesn't. It's not an overnight solution.
Right.
It is a long-term investment.
Of course. So it's what your mission is fantastic, Jordan.
Mm-hmm.
Like you guys are going to go so far, and it's so innovative, and it's lovely to hear. And unfortunately, I'm one of those people that does return, so.
So we should work together.
Yeah. So you spoke about this briefly. With this constantly changing ecosystem.
Yep.
And all these kind of scares about like tariffs and new regulations that
sure.
are coming up. How does this affect your business, or how can you see it affect small businesses and really in big businesses, everyone in between?
Yeah, I mean, tariffs are going to drive up cost for the everyday buyer, and I think it's part of the solution space to come up with creative ways to keep the cost down in other areas to offset the impact of tariff regulation and fees that are impacted within that space. And so I think in many ways it's going to drive a lot of innovation to come up with creative ways. And that means a unified front to come up with ways to connect the dots together. That drives partnerships. Partnerships drive innovation, and that type of structures. I think we're going to see a lot of collaborations between partners and systems to be able to drive down the forward sale and the reverse cost. And if you can close that cycle faster and more efficient, you're ultimately going to be able to drive offset to the tariff impact.
We met at CES, and you and I go to a lot of similar shows.
Yeah.
This year feels different to me, at least, than most of the shows I've been to recently, where you pick your buzzword. One recently has been artificial intelligence and machine learning, but now it feels different. How has artificial intelligence and machine learning impacted e-commerce, and is it having an impact?
Yeah, it is, and like I said, it's a constant enhancement. So AI is not something that happens overnight. We have to constantly feed it with information and train it so that it can action on our behalf. There is a trust barrier, I would say, within the market where customers, active users of AI look at it and go, hey, why should I trust this system? And it's really up to the solution providers to drive transparency so that you can show, here's the impact of this decision, and then model out that impact over long periods of time to drive trust. And so the more we focus on trust enablement systems like data, high transparent data reporting, which I would say is another big word out here that everybody is focusing on, is transparency. Most of the companies in Manifest are highlighting transparency as a key word. And AI needs to be backed with strong transparency. And so we're going to see a lot of this, a lot more collaboration, like I said, to be able to enhance information flow so that people start to trust the artificial intelligence systems that are being deployed. And so, yeah, this is just the beginning.
Well, Jordan, I've seen a lot of people come up to you and ask a lot of questions. You're a guru in this space. Any final thoughts that you have around supply chain, what's coming up in 2025, and how e-commerce is going to evolve?
Yeah, so retail, as we know it today, where you have brick and mortar and the retailer is initiating POs, we're already seeing a shift where retail is migrating and pushing vendors, sellers direct. So that's creating a massive push towards marketplace enablement. And every logistics provider in there is coming up with different solutions to be able to mitigate the burden and the risk of carrying inventory. Because at the end of the day, It's a transfer of ownership and title throughout the entire ecosystem. And transparent reporting, AI-based logic is going to drive down the risk and enhance our ability to be able to scale and do things direct without the risk associated with it. So I think as we look ahead and we look about the next iteration of selling, it's really going to be more about eliminating those ownership layers and really pushing the value of ownership and title back to manufacturers and enabling them to be able to deliver direct to consumer, because that's ultimately going to drive the best experience.
Great.